It's all 12 gauge all day today. I'm going to try out a few semi-auto shotguns here, including the Rock Island VR80, Mac 1014 Turnelli, and the American-made Mossberg 940 Pro. All today on this week's Gear Grind. Hey, I'm Travis, the product guy at at3tactical.com. Basically, when we bring stuff onto the site, I'm the guy making sure it's going to be quality, affordable, cool, or a mix of all three. We want to sell stuff that excites us, things we'd actually use, not a bunch of crap. I like to give a wide variety of options for shooters who come by our store. I know better than most that people's needs vary wildly, whether it comes down to a gun's feel and functions or tightness of budget. So I wanted to try some shotguns today at 3 different price points and see how they stack up. As always, we're hitting on the most important 5 F's when it comes to today's gun gear: fit, feel, form, function, and features. And I'm gonna try and get through it in about 5 minutes. Let's roll. Most folks know by now, AT3 specializes in AR platforms. So let's start with an AR-styled shotgun, the mag-fed Rock Island VR80. Fit. The VR80 is fairly straightforward in terms of compatibility. Since this is a mag-fed shotgun with a straight-in AR-style magazine, you're only going to be using VR80 magazines on this one. You can get them in a variety of capacities, from the standard 5-round it comes with to a very stendo 19-round banana clip. Now, if you want to swap out the standard thumb hole grip and stock, you absolutely can. The pistol grip is AR-15 compatible, and the stock is mounted on a commercial spec buffer tube. Apparently you can swap it out for a mil-spec tube, but I haven't verified that quite yet. The real shortcoming is the factory handguard, which does have some cutie sling studs and M-lock at the sides, but nothing on the bottom for a foregrip. But pick rail on top means lights and optics are a go. The VR80 is a pretty solid chunk of shotgun, but it's not too heavy, at least when it's loaded with the 5-round mag here. I don't think anyone is going to be in love with the standard stock and grip setup out of the box, but everything else about this gun is pretty much standard AR-15. AR bolt catch, mag release, safety, all very familiar. You're not going to be able to change those, and they definitely don't feel as nice as the typical AR, but they're perfectly serviceable. With the exception of the charging handle on the support side, your manual of arms is basically going to be the exact same thing as your AR-15. Just be ready to get used to the standard stock. It's a little hard to find the sights easily at first. Form. I'll be honest, the VR80 out of the box is a bit of an odd duck. The handguard is weird, the stock and grip combo is definitely goofy, but you can't deny it's got a unique look. There's a few options out there for changing the VR80's rail, but they're not 100% necessary in my opinion. I would say plan to spend a little money on an AR grip and a commercial spec stock, not just for looks, but ergonomics. I think that alone makes this read much better as an AR-style shotgun than the stock furniture. Function. One nice thing about the VR80 is that it does come with some AR height iron sights, so it's ready to go to the range right out of the box. Here's what I found getting some shells through this bad boy. Okay, so the VR80 right out of the box needs a little help to get started in my opinion. Just needs some lube on the bolt. Your target loads, your bird shot, it's gonna cycle a little weaker. So you just wanna make sure you do that. Also, do make sure when you're loading in your magazine, lock the bolt back first. You're gonna get a lot better results. I kind of got hung up on some shells when I was loading it the first time. Otherwise, the gun does run great. It really shines with the buckshot and your slug rounds. Kind of to be expected on something that's styled after an AR, to have those more military practical application rounds be where this thing's wheelhouse is. The other thing to note about the VR80, because it is mag-fed and you're dealing with thick rimmed cartridges basically, it's going to take a little force to muscle it down into the magazine, as well as when you're loading it in, it just put a little ass behind it and you'll get it in there. Works just fine. Features. So why the VR80 versus another 12 gauge semi-auto? For me, I think the faithful AR-15 style control setup is the biggest advantage. Now, cheaper imported shotguns that look kind of like AR-15s aren't anything new, and there's definitely a few different manufacturers out there. But at least for me, the ability to have a pretty sleek form factor with no cheesy clamshell designs housing an action that was never meant to be AR-shaped help a lot here. It's got a regular mag release, ambi safety, bolt catch, and release. This is going to feel the most like an AR in that category, and it works pretty well. Now let's drop down a couple $100. What kind of semi-auto 12 gauge can you get for around 400 bucks? The Military Arms Corporation 1014. Fit. So this is pretty interesting, right? Looks a heck of a lot like a Benelli M4, and under the hood, that's mostly the case. Pretty much any upgrade for the iconic military semi-auto shotgun is going to work here. Chokes, triggers, magazine tubes, foreends, and stocks. And if you're familiar with 922R and how upgrading this kind of gun works, that's a huge advantage for expanding this gun's capacity to a more desirable 7-shot tube. 2 3/4 and 3-inch shells only, which is pretty standard, but always appreciated. It also comes with some Benelli pattern chokes out of the box, which is nice to see. Feel. This is a $400 Turkish reproduction of an iconic Italian semi-auto. Does it feel cheap? Surprising the hell out of me, not at all. Even looking over the bolt in the action, it's not the prettiest I've seen, but nothing about it screams, please replace me. Now, because this is a gas-operated gun, you're gonna feel a bit of weight towards the front, especially as you load up shells. But honestly, that's par for the course on this type of shotgun, and though I love my lightweight guns, this one's no issue. Form. Cool thing about these Mac 1014 shotguns is that they come in a variety of finishes and configurations. This model has a type of walnut for the stock and forend, but you can also get these in polymer with a pistol grip and even some collapsible stock models. Even a marine coat matte nickel finish if you're into that vibe. Plus, some vent rib models with longer barrels for hunting and competition. They all look really good, it's just a matter of what you'd like for your preference. Function. I first got a look at some of these following SHOT Show coverage this year, and the Military Arms Corporation had a lot of confidence in their product despite some understandable skepticism. But how did this thing do at the range?
For today at the range, the standout by far was the 1014, $400 gun, semi-automatic, works great. I had a little trouble getting used to some of the controls because, more so have that Mossberg 500 money, not that Benelli money. For this thing's part, it has, great ergonomics. It's got a great recoil impulse, cycled everything, no problem, no lube needed. Target, birdshot, buckshot, slugs. It ate through everything. And I would say this is a fantastic buy. If you're on the fence just because of the price point or kind of the status on this one, I think you'd be very surprised. I certainly was today.
Getting a civilian spec Benelli M4 legally up to more military standards of capacity takes a fair bit of cash. And on a gun that's going to set you back about $2,000, it's kind of a losing proposition. But now you have something that costs around 1/5 of that for the base price, takes the same upgrades, is as reliable as you need for a gun at this price point. It's really hard to beat these new Mac 1014 shotguns. That's enough imports. Let's talk about an American-made lead slinger. This is the Mossberg 940 Tactical 12 gauge. The 940 is pretty much all proprietary in terms of furniture. There's not much wiggle room on the aftermarket. But you do have an M-LOK slot up on the barrel band for mounting a light as well as a sling. The other cool feature, instead of a Picatinny optics rail, this shotgun comes with an RMSC footprint cutout for small red dot sights, which, given the popularity of that footprint for subcompact pistols, gives you a wide array of options for compact, easy to service optics. And again, 2 3/4 and 3-inch shells only. Real shocker, I know. Feel. For me, I prefer this shape for my shotgun, so I'm gonna be a little biased here. My go-to 12 gauge is a Mossberg 500. I prefer the safety on top instead of a crossbar. It just makes more sense to me. Other than that, I felt that even though I couldn't change anything about the shotgun's furniture, I wouldn't really want to. The stock and forend makes sense. I can drive this thing straight into my shoulder and easily pick up the fiber optic front sight and get on target without issue. Action is very satisfying, nothing rattling around, and it's got a nice trigger. So far, what I expect from a 12 gauge north of $1,000. Form. The 940 Tactical is pretty straightforward. Most of the time you'll see these in a black, parkerized finish, but you can also get these in a Cerakote flat dark earth and OD green. The 940 lineup in general also has some camouflage models for hunters, as well as competition models with a few more showy embellishments and higher capacity. The Jerry Michalek model has a 10+1 capacity with a 24-inch barrel. This one has a 7+1 with an 18.5-inch barrel. But even there, nothing too crazy about these. They look good and they serve a purpose. Function. Getting into the shooting of this bad boy, I'm going to be a little less lenient than our more budget-friendly options. The 940 Tactical is generally going to set you back a little over $1,000 when it's all said and done. So how does the performance stack up?
So, American-made Mossberg 940, how did it do? Ate through everything just fine. Now, I will say, the reason why you're not seeing an optic on here right now is because, and this is on me, I did not have long enough screws to go into this thing to mount it up for the video. and it came off pretty much the first shot. You've seen the footage, it'll be great. This is exactly what I expect from a gun at this price point. No real issues with the different types of loads that we used. Really easy to use. Without the secondary lever for activating the lifter, I felt it pretty intuitive compared to the 1014. But otherwise, I mean, recoil impulse is really nice on this. It's nice and lightweight too. I think that's worth saying. Otherwise, I mean, the fiber optic front sight works really well as well. I would say, you know, comparing all these guns at these different price points, I think this is definitely like worthy of the price. And like I said, functionality works great, kind of what I expected.
Features. The 940 Tactical has a lot of great individual features that make it a great modern semi-auto shotgun. I think the biggest selling point is how much sense it makes and how you really don't have to change or upgrade anything, unlike these guns, just to be able to mount what you need for self-defense. It's simple. Mount a red dot on the receiver, light on the front end, get a sling on it and some double-aught buck in the tube, and you're good to go. Tons of capability with an impressive gas system that tames 12 gauge very well. Checks all the boxes for what I'd want at a price that I feel is justified. I hope you found some useful info from this video. I know I was definitely surprised by a few things putting these back to back. Next week, probably going to get back into more parts, but we'll be looking at guns from here on in, so stay tuned for more. And as always, if there's an AR or pistol upgrade you want me to go hands-on with, drop a comment below. I'll give you my honest take on it in a future video. Peace.